MOULDAFRICA.
Hello, my name is Tekena Ikoko. I am the CEO of MOULDAFRICA. MOULDAFRICA has a reputation of being the first organization, or perhaps, if I like to be humble, one of the first organizations to develop a step-by-step process of deploying emotional intelligence. You must have seen our book, My Emotions and I. You might have also seen our other products. The essence of coming to this video is showing you how to get the best of that book. First of all, I'm going to give a little overview about emotional intelligence. Not so much details, so even if you know it before or you're just hearing it for the first time, I'll give you a little introduction into it. More importantly, I'll show you the way we teach it in a very short summary. And then when I'm back after the break, I'll be able to then show you how exactly to use our curriculum to improve or increase or accelerate emotional intelligence.
MOULDAFRICA.
The way we would deploy this will be so that you can use it either in your office or in your school or at home. So it doesn't matter which sector you belong to, this curricula will be applicable to you. What is emotional intelligence? I know you've heard it before, or maybe this is the first time, like I said before. But remember that every time you think about emotional intelligence, think about, first of all, the three broad, different categories of intelligence. Number one, you have spiritual intelligence. Number two, you have IQ, or what is called intellectual intelligence. And then number three, you have emotional intelligence. So as you can see on the screen, that basically spiritual intelligence covers everything. When I say spiritual intelligence, whatever is your spiritual connotation is going to overrule your entire belief system, rightly or wrongly. Whatever you believe, even if you don't believe in any deity, whatever is that intelligence of your subconscious into the spiritual realm, it oversees everything about your life. However, if you look at the diagram again, inside that you have that the brain, the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain are predominantly dominated by one of these intelligence. On the left side of the brain, you have your traditional IQ, which is what you do in school. However, on the right side of the brain, you have something people don't really take time to develop, which is called the EQ. The major difference between these two is that one uses the left side of the brain for serial processing, while the right side of the brain is used predominantly for EQ for a type of processing called parallel processing. Now, I'm not going to give you all the technical jargons because you don't need that. But all I can tell you is that with serial processing or IQ, basically the brain adds events. Something happened in the morning, it adds it up again in the afternoon, adds it up in the evening, and comes to a logical conclusion based on all the things it's added. That's what happens in school. They look at your year 1 result, your year 2 result, year 3 result, and they cumulate it together and say, therefore you are this. But with emotional intelligence, you separate the events. What happened to a person before should not be used as a basis to judge him thereafter. You can separate the events, and that is why it is parallel processing. Now, what happens is that many people use only one form of processing when they deal with life. That is why somebody can be a professor in school or in the school environment and have a disaster in his marriage because he's adding events the way he adds it in the office with the way he adds it up with his wife. And that's a disaster. Or you see a student who looks at the way he has handled mathematics with his previous teachers. So when he goes to the next class and they introduce the next topic, he has already concluded he would fail because he's adding the events and he's not separating his emotions within the past and now. And when you can't separate your emotions, you cannot take logical decisions to move forward. So the student or the staff or the people in their relationship will have problems even though their career is doing excellently well. And that's why it is no longer an option to have a thorough take on emotional intelligence, know it, and above all things in MOULDAFRICA, to show you how you can use our tools to develop, improve, and increase it. To do what? To develop, increase, and then do what? Improve it. That's why I'm here. So in summary, 3 intelligences, but we're interested in one, and that's what? Emotional intelligence. How would I define emotional intelligence? Now, I'm not going to take you to things that you can't relate with. I'll just give you 2 simple things that you can always remember. It says that emotional intelligence from MOULDAFRICA is the ability to recognize the current state and impact of a prevailing emotion, and then to shift, if required, to another appropriate emotional state that will guarantee optimal performance and best results. So there are 2 broad aspects of the definition. Number 1, I need to recognize the emotion. Not just the emotion, I need to recognize the impact that emotion is having right now. Now, if I do that, I can then evaluate it. Is this helping me? Is this moving me forward? Is this retrogressing me? Now, if for any reason that is not helping me, emotional intelligence tools has to equip me with the ability to shift to the appropriate emotion that gives me that best performance and best result. So if I have a good IQ and I have a low EQ, you would see that this person will not be able to recognize his present emotions, or he will be in denial of his present emotion, or sadly, he will be a slave to his current emotion, to the extent that he will use his emotions as the excuse why he's not performing. You hear him saying, I was in a bad mood, so I messed things up. I was so angry, so I made that mistake. Or he said I was not, feeling too okay, and I was just, in a bad state of mind, so I couldn't submit those reports. His emotions now is dictating his performance. No. In MOULDAFRICA, and with our tools, we will show you not just to recognize it, but we'll show you how to shift to the emotion that is required to guarantee you performance. All I'm interested in is guaranteed performance. And moving away from there, once you understand that definition, I can then tell you that there are 5 broad categories that defines emotional intelligence. So you see on my screen, you have 5 of them. You have self-awareness, you have self-regulation, you have motivation, you have empathy, and you have social skills. Now, the definitions of all these you'll see in the manual. Each of them, clearly what they stand for. And everything you need to know is that these 5 different categories summed up together, if the wheel is moving positively, great emotional intelligence. If it's moving negatively, poor emotional intelligence. You see, I don't want you to be the man who is self-aware. That's the first category. He's self-aware, but he lacks empathy. And because he lacks empathy, it shows in his social skills. So he can't connect to the people because he's either too hard or too bossy. So even though he's aware, his wife feels a disconnection, or his students feel a disconnection. No, we don't want that. We want the wheel to be what? Positive. So every component has to work. Every single component. Or we don't want you to be on the other side, where you're always apologizing for everything you do. Whether you are right, whether you are wrong, you're always moody and depressed, and you're living inside yourself. In fact, in trying to please everybody in your social skill, you're damning your regulation. You can't motivate yourself to do your tasks. You're always procrastinating. You're always pushing your deadlines on, and in the name of trying to get it so perfect, you're mixing up everything. Or perhaps you're just going through an emotional roller coaster time, maybe from a divorce, or maybe from an emotional breakdown, maybe from a loss of a loved one, or your expectation about a result simply didn't come to pass and it crashed. Whichever way it is, just listen to me. For students, for people in the office, or people at home, these 5 categories are what predominantly needs to be in check, be always above, need always to be optimal, so that you can get your life rolling forward despite all the things life throws at you. In MOULDAFRICA, we don't just talk it, we walk the talk. If you go to our site, you will be able to take a test that would evaluate your current state in these 5 categories. So, for example, on the screen now, I have a sample of somebody's results. So you can clearly see that this particular person has 4 categories where the person is strong, but in one of the categories the person needs attention, which is in managing emotions. And what MOULDAFRICA will do would be to give tools to be able to improve the areas that are lacking so that you are balanced. And you can then come back 3 months after using the tools, or a session after using them with your students or with your personal life, and take a second test. And when you evaluate orange for orange, mango for mango, you can then clearly see how you're doing. Performance can never be improved until it is measured. So MOULDAFRICA gives you the first tool to measure your current state and not live in history. So you might have done an emotional intelligence training in Brazil, in New York, in Canada, in Lagos, wherever you did it. MOULDAFRICA first gives you an assessment tool. And right now, you need to go to www.mouldafrica.com and take the test. You, your students, your spouse, take a test. Once you go through and you pay, your results will come out immediately, and you'll be able to know for now where you are. Then you can begin to use our tools. As you use our tools, you can improve. And that's where it gets me excited, because my duty here is to show you how to improve in spite of where you are right now. I'll give you some practical examples. There's a story of a man, his name is Paul. This guy was brought in front of a court, and the person who was to judge him, railed and abused on him, and he reacted. And immediately he reacted, he abused him back, and people told him, don't you know this is the judge? And when they told him he was the judge, he quickly apologized and said he was sorry. He didn't know that he was the judge. He was not supposed to say such things about the judge. Immediately he said that, the quick thing he realized was that the judge and some other people belonged to a particular group of clan. So he quickly identified with the other group and told them he was one of their members. And immediately he pitched the 2 heads against each other. And instantly, as they began to quarrel, they set him free. Now, in this popular story, which you will find in ancient texts, is a classic example of a man who moves around all his emotional zones. So on the screen, you will see that there are basically 4 emotional zones. There's the red zone, there's the yellow zone, then there's the blue zone, and then there's the green zone. The red zone is for emotions that are high and unpleasant. The blue zone is for emotions that are low and unpleasant. The yellow zone, that's the excitement zone. That's where you have great energy, you feel like dancing, you feel happy, new bubbling ideas. That is in the yellow zone. The yellow zone is always high energy and pleasant. Amazing zone. That's where the creative guys like to work. But you also have the zone where people are contented, which is the green zone, which is low and pleasant. These 4 zones are the zones that people stay in from the day-to-day life. So let me come back to you. If you take a history of your emotions and you see that you perpetually live in the red zone and you do not know how to shift to other zones for other activities, then you're stuck. So the problem is not which zone you are in, it's the ability to shift from zone to zone. Some people are in the blue zone, always gloomy, whether in the name of spirituality or in the name of depression. Rightly or wrongly, I'm not going into that today. But if you're in the blue zone and you're stuck in the blue zone, then I have a challenge. You need to know how to shift. Remember, emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize the state you are in, or put it down in my words, the zone you are in, and then be able to shift to the appropriate zone. So in the story I gave to you, it's amazing how the guy shifts. Now, follow me. It means that when he started the gist, he was in the green zone because he was relaxed, boasting, confident, and all of that. He was confident. He was cool. That's the green zone. But immediately the guy abused him. That is him shifting to the red zone. So he goes from green to where? Red. And then he's angry. That's the red zone. In the red zone, when he found out that he'd made a mistake, he was able to come down to the blue zone. And then he gets an idea, he's able to move to the yellow zone. And when things settle down, he was able to move down to the green zone. You see, the ability to move, that's what shows you that you have a balanced emotional life. And that's the goal of MOULDAFRICA. How does that apply to me? I'll give you some examples as you get an overview of this. Imagine that number one, your boss just spoke rudely to you and you need to make a presentation to a new client. If your boss spoke rudely to you, then most likely, where are you? The red zone. Now you need to make a presentation to a new client. Which zone do you need to be in? The yellow zone. You see, so emotional intelligence is the ability to move from that red zone to the yellow zone. Now, if you can't, or you don't have the tools, or you don't have the MOULDAFRICA curriculum, and you're stuck in the red zone, what's going to happen? You're going to take that red things, that red anxiety, that pain, that frustration, and you're going to go and pour it on your clients. And boy, that's not what to do. That's poor emotional intelligence. You see, that's why I'm here for you, to show you how to shift in spite of what they did to you. I'll give you a second example for students. He says, I have a crush on somebody in school, and he or she has been behaving funny to me. How do I now face my studies? You see, emotions are involved. There's love feelings, rightly or wrongly. I'm not going into that. She loves him, he loves her, and now the person is feeling jilted, and then exam is by the corner. You see why many students struggle? Because they can't shift. Not because they're not intelligent. With IQ, they can't shift because EQ is poor. Now, you parents, you guidance, you teachers, you need to take this curriculum and go to them and show them how they can shift. That gives them the balance. I'll give you a third example. My children just ruined my mood, and the doorbell rings. It is somebody who recently badly offended me. Imagine that. Your children ruin your mood. Where are you? Red zone. You open the door, somebody who offended you, what happened? You will most likely take the anger of what the person did to you and do what? Transfer to this other person. It's called transferred aggression. That is still poor EQ. So you see people, something happens at home, they transfer it to their staff at office. Something happens in this traffic of Lagos with some policemen, and you get into that mood, and when you get to your happy, you transfer it. No. Through our curriculum, we will show you how to manage these things so you have great relationship. Finally, recently, another example, I have been battling with depression and low self-esteem. How do I motivate myself for an upcoming event? So he's depressed. Where is that? Blue zone. Low self-esteem, blue zone. And a new event is coming up. He's supposed to be in the yellow zone. How do I move him from yellow zone to where? From blue zone to where? Yellow zone. Now, you see, the problem is it's not about depression. I don't get me wrong. I'm not speaking low about mental health. I'm just saying that the issue is not stigmatization about depression. It's not stigmatization about a particular emotion. MOULDAFRICA is going to show you how to move that emotion. And that is really a good nugget about the role of emotional intelligence and how it applies to you. I'll give you in summary that you see, a great certificate may get you a job, but poor emotional intelligence will keep you stagnant or get you booted out. Nugget number 2. A good face, favor, and money may get you quickly into a relationship or even marriage, but only great emotional intelligence can sustain the pressure of love and the demands of familyhood. Number 3 nugget. A student that manages his or her emotions will be able to focus. To do what? To focus. Listen to me. And when he focuses with good focus, he will guarantee better results in the face of peer pressures, academic stress, and therefore they can uphold behavior that is needed for consistent performance. You see why you need it in your school? Number 4, A person who is in denial of his present habitual emotional state is living in falsehood. Number 5, a person who cannot shift his emotions is a slave to his emotions. But why am I here? I'm here in MOULDAFRICA to say to you, a person who realizes that he or she has low emotional intelligence can be helped, can be trained. And as you come into MOULDAFRICA in my second session, I'm going to show you how to use our curriculum to achieve just this. Once again, my name is Tekena Ikoko. We're here to take you beyond emotional intelligence, to show you the tools that can give you exactly the results you need in your corporate life, in your family life, and in your social life. See you in the next video.
MOULDAFRICA.